And we're live. Welcome everybody here to your favorite day of the week. It is Friday. It's my last Friday before I have a kid or a second kid. I'm joined as always by Aaron Larsoul. We are doing this thing live. I'm just going to check out some stuff so I can think about it and mull it over while I
Right.
am on paternity leave.
Yeah, because you're going to need more to think about then.
I really will. You can ask Harrison, you can ask Pete, who was with me when Avery was born. I was not good at taking time off. I am not good at taking time off. You can ask Jen. As I'm quote unquote off, I tend to
Right.
bother her with Lakers takes. So,
I suspect you just bother her generally.
well, yeah, this is an extra thing that I bother her with.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I just sit there and just, Jen, can you believe they haven't traded Russell Westbrook yet? What's going on? What has Rob Pelinka been fired? Like that's generally how what me and Jen have been talking
This is what
about.
I'm getting on this lovely Friday morning. This is how we're starting this off here. Good thing I brought this.
Yeah, unnamed cognac is what that looks like, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, so we are going to be talking today about the fact that Russell Westbrook is still on the roster as things currently stand. We were just talking a little bit ago when I asked you, hey, do you want to go live here? And you said that like Lakers family stuff is going to be kicking off here in the next couple of weeks. We have mini camps coming. We have the actual training camp coming. We are, weeks away from essentially the roster being solidified heading into the season. And there sits Russell Westbrook. So, Aaron, I'm just going to ask you straight up, like, they aren't actually going to do this, right? I liken it. I always compare it to car crashes that you can kind of see coming in the parking
Okay.
lot. Where like you walk out of the store, you see two cars like backing out towards each other, and as they're backing out, you're like, all right, somebody's gonna hit the brakes. Somebody's gonna check their rear view. They can't both be on their phone right now. They're not actually gonna hit each other. Oh my god, they're gonna. Holy crap! They just ran into each other. Look at that. Now I'm stuck here. Is this how this is going to go? Are the Lakers actually going to back into? Are the Lakers and Russell Westbrook actually going to back into each other in the parking lot?
Yeah, I'm just the analogies are so good. I'm like thinking, what kind of car is each? What kind of vehicle is each?
The Lakers are definitely a minivan,
Okay.
family vehicle,
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. That's
like
good.
a 1994 Ford Aerostar.
That was incredibly specific. Uh, so I have thought that.
Russ is a Lamborghini with no brakes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I have thought for the entire offseason that the best course of action was moving Russ, assuming you could get something reasonable that would be useful, that would be helpful. And I still think that's the case, and I still think there's a decent chance of that. However, okay, now so here's my analogy, right? So now I'm gonna sidetrack us.
All right.
Growing up, I thought I always wanted to have kids. I assumed that's how my life was gonna go.
Don't do it. Anybody listening?
And this is your dating, marriage, and family advice from Anthony Irving.
I used to have like one chin. At one point in my life, I had one chin, and now I have multiple chins per child. It's like as you have children,
hold on.
you lose a chin.
You don't even have the second one yet. What are you talking about?
Oh, it's there when I look down.
No, you have the second chin. You don't have the second kid. You don't get to blame him yet.
Oh no, I do. No, as soon as you find, dude, come on. As soon as you find out you're having the second kid, you essentially have the second kid.
All right, fair. All right, so. And by the way, my brother has two, and it is not like a
Does he have
lateral. No, he does not. But it is not. It is like an exponential difference. It's not like God, 1 plus 1 equals 2. It's like 1 plus 1 equals 8.
Yeah.
And the times when Jen wants to go do something and you're on the penalty kill and you got to have both of them. Yeah, well, that's why you're drinking. Anyway, so I thought my life was going to. I assumed I would probably have kids. I wanted to. and I'm still open to it. I don't know if I want to anymore, but I am now a few days away from my 45th birthday, and I don't have children now. So I have become more aware of and accustomed to and accepting of, because of the timing, it may not happen. So I understand as we get closer and closer and closer to camp that it becomes more and more likely that I will not have children and Russ will still be on the roster. I get that. I do think there is still a decent possibility that he gets moved. But I get the sentiment that, like, okay, this is getting pretty tight here. But I really enjoyed your pod with Dan Wojcicki about the pitfalls of either path, and about I don't think it's complicated. You guys described it as complicated. I don't think it's that complicated. I just think it's a very difficult decision, and I don't think it has, at this point, I don't think it has a clear answer.
That sounds semantical. It's not complicated, but it is difficult.
No, because here's the thing. People all the time tell me, like, I think there's a difference. Like, things can be simple but not easy, right? I don't think it's complicated. I just think that, as you guys talked about, and as you and I have talked about, there are valid arguments on either side. So I have thought, and I still think, that the cleanest path and the best path forward is trading Russ. I still believe that. But that's in a vacuum. That lacks the context of what does the deal look like. And that has been the hang up so far. So, like, are the two cars going to back up into each other? It's looking more and more likely at this point.
What the fuck?
How many of those do you have? And do you ever get new ones?
I do. I gotta add to the library or whatever. That's going to be one of my things on paternity leave. But I have plenty of them. Here's the thing. So simple but not easy, right? Normally, the right thing to do falls under those categories, right? Like, normally, like, if the right thing to do was always easy, we'd be living in Eden, right? Because, like, we would just be living in utopia, where everybody did the right thing all the time because it's easy. The reason people do the wrong thing a lot is because it tends to be easier, right? It's harder to walk the straight and narrow. And yeah, I still land on, and I have landed on, if anything, I think I thought the first move that the Lakers should make this offseason has always been, even acknowledging that they didn't have a deadline to do this, but I think now that we look back on the offseason, the deadline to do this was before the Lakers started filling out the rest of the roster, because they've clearly filled out the rest of the roster with a Russ move in mind. It's why they signed Lonnie Walker they used their exception, their mid-level exception, on Lonnie Walker, who plays the same position as Russell Westbrook. They're excited about Kendrick Nunn coming back. He plays the same position as Russell Westbrook. They trade for Patrick Beverley. He plays the same position as Russell Westbrook. And it's like, at some point here, the Lakers needed to, they've been basically approaching their, and there's still time, but I think the more logical approach to this offseason would have been make the Russ trade, as painful as it might be, as uneasy as it might make them feel. Make that Russ trade, and then you attack the rest of the roster, now knowing what kinds of players you got back in the Russ trade. This idea that they're going to retrofit the roster to a Russ trade is just, it's really difficult to do, especially given the fact that the Lakers clearly they've limited their pool to clutch guys and former Lakers as potential acquisitions.
Okay.
So it's like,
I mean, that all of that is great in theory.
Sure.
But there's context missing there, because and again, I understand it. You and I have had this conversation offline. I get Lakers fans' frustration with the season, and I even understand, I disagree with it, but I understand the sentiment. I just need this dude. I don't want to watch this anymore. I can't watch this anymore. Get this dude out of here, no matter what. but that's not the way it works, right? Like, would it have been ideal to take the path that you're saying? If you're going to move Russ, you move him earlier so that you know what you have back, and then you go into free agency, the draft, summer league, all of that, with all of that in mind, right? Yes, sure. But that doesn't mean that deal was out there. And that doesn't mean that even though that was the ideal path, that it makes sense to do that if the deal isn't there. Like that can putting that deadline on yourself, putting that artificial deadline on yourself can force you into a bad deal or a worse deal than you could get otherwise. And then you're not better off. You're worse off.
So, yes, you're right. Like artificial deadlines tend to work in the team that you're negotiating with's favor. But Aaron, this was never going to be a winning move. Like you're moving a future Hall of Famer and a future and 2 first-round picks down the road for spare parts. Like this was never going to be a painless move. Again, it's the difference between the easy thing to do and the right thing to do. The easy thing to do would have been like, it seems like their general approach right now is, well, maybe Darvin Ham gets to him. Maybe Russell Westbrook just like completely rethinks his approach to basketball after a 14 or 15 year career that has been incredibly fruitful, and he's on the way to the Hall of Fame for like, sure, yeah, maybe he'll rethink these things. But that's not, while that is easy, that's not reality. I don't think anybody who watched him play last year would think to themselves, while it is possible that he might rethink those things, nobody watching him last year would say, like, I would bet on him rethinking his approach to the game. Aaron, his agent was fired for merely saying, like, hey, man, give it a shot. See how it goes.
Agree with you.
And Russ was like, no.
I agree with you. It is unlikely. I saw enough last year. I think it is unlikely that the fit works with Russ. I agree with you. However, in my opinion, and yours could differ, yours does differ, I still am unwilling to just make any deal. Because I've
never said make any deal. I'm saying the deals haven't changed, Aaron. Like the ones that we've been hearing about haven't changed over the course of the offseason. It's been like Russ and 2 first-rounders for Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. That is, according to what I've been told, that has been there all offseason. And the Pacers eventually walked away from the negotiating table because the Lakers were like, no, we will not include both first rounders until we absolutely have to. And I'm saying they absolutely had to at the beginning of the offseason. As soon as Russell Westbrook had that press conference where he called LeBron James and Anthony Davis liars for saying that they tried to let Russ be Russ. That was your deadline, man. That was the setup for how this offseason was going to go. And Aaron, like, again, and I get it. Like, I understand that people who don't take this in as obsessively as I do, right, roll their eyes at me looking at or anybody looking at Twitter likes or retweets or analyzing DAP at Patrick Beverley's announcement.
Anthony Irwin, body language expert.
Exactly, yeah. But like body language is 75% of our communication. It is. Like that still makes up. The reason why you're in my shows, like you're in my shows would be endlessly better if we did this in person, right? And the reason that is because we would be able to see, hey, Aaron isn't feeling this point. I know the reason why I prefer to do all of my shows. I remember when I first started out doing this, and Zoom. Back then it was on. Oh God, what was the other one? Not Zoom, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
Skype.
Thank you. Yeah, when I first started doing this, or on Google Chat or whatever, I would have to ask people, guests and stuff, hey, can you turn on your camera? And they'd be like, why? And I'm like, because it's way better. The conversation is way better if I see you rolling your eyes at my third point in a row. And I know not to come back to that point.
No, you're bullshit. And that's not true. You are bullshit. You just want to do like Chick Hearn used to do Pat Riley and put the fist up when it was time for you to just shut up. That's what you guys can't see. He tells me when it's time to be quiet. The live show is different. This is what he tells me. Normally,
Aaron,
he puts the fist up.
I've had my fist up. That is, But yeah, I don't know. I look at the offseason that the Lakers have had, and I think you would agree that they seem to have filled out that the roster as if Russell Westbrook wasn't going to be on it. Right? They're very guard heavy.
I think that is, well, what do we say about assumptions? But I think that is a fair conclusion to draw. It's an assumption, but I think it is a fair conclusion to draw. Yes.
And even if they didn't, like if they didn't design the roster with Russell Westbrook not being on it, then they designed a really weird roster. So like either it's a super weird roster or they did it with this move in mind, with the idea that Russell Westbrook wouldn't be on it. And look, Ramona Shelburne was on the Low Post, and they're talking about this situation and how likely it is for Russ to actually be there at training camp.
Recently she was?
Yeah, she just did. Yeah,
okay,
released
I heard
earlier
the last one with Ian Bagley was good, but I haven't heard the Ramona part yet.
So they
also, by the way,
not
incredibly well connected with the Lakers anymore, but that's another story.
I mean, I'd be curious to see what went on there. But anyway, like, from what Ramona is told,
I'm not talking bad about Ramona because she's still very well connected around the league.
Yeah.
Just not as well connected, and I think she's really good. So I don't take it that way. She's just not as well connected with the Lakers specifically as she used to be.
Yeah. That makes this next point interesting, though. She was talking with Lowe about this, and she was actually speaking more from Russell Westbrook's perspective in saying that he hasn't demanded a trade, but he'd be open to it. And Seb, by the way, for your Monday, the plan is for Aaron, me, and Harrison to be doing this together. So that's a heads up on there. But according to Ramona, Russ hasn't demanded a trade, but he's certainly open to one. And I guess the next step in this, like we keep on waiting for things to escalate one way or the other, right? Either the Lakers actually go out and make a trade, or we get the leak that the Lakers have actually pulled him off of the table and they are now committed to bringing him back. As things stand right now, everything's in this really awkward situation where like when you see a cup standing at the edge of the edge of the table, and that thing's about to fall, all that potential energy. We have all this potential energy stored up right now, and we're waiting for something to either slide the cup back onto the table or for, Avery to come over and knock it off, right?
Well, your daughter catches strays every week.
She can't catch anything right now, other than colds. But so we're waiting for some kind of something to move the cup one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And one potential thing that could move this cup one way or the other is Russ coming out and demanding a trade. And based on his moves to this point and his approach to this offseason to this point, where he's going out and hit the tweets that he actually is liking are the ones that talk about how this guy can't be considered washed. How dare you hold him accountable for everything that went wrong last season? And the tweets that he isn't liking are the ones where like LeBron and Patrick Beverley are saying like, we can't wait to see this guy bounce back next year. It's pretty clear he wants out too. So like, is the next move him just coming out and demanding a trade?
I don't think so. And the reason why there's no inertia either way, I think is because they're in a very strange situation. Both sides, where I think at this point it makes psychological sense and business sense for both sides to just placate and kind of make nice. Mm-hmm. There's no upside for the Lakers. I talk about this all the time, so I'll repeat myself very quickly. But there's no upside for the Lakers to talk down on Russ, no matter what the objective is. And for Russ, in Russ's situation, I don't know that it helps him to demand a trade, right? Because as you and I have talked about before, as it would appear his agent, that riff was about, as you and Dan Wojcicki talked about, if Russ is traded somewhere and it's somewhere where he is not traded to, where he's going to be allowed to shine and star and do what he does, and he is either bought out or has a lesser role, I'm not sure what that does to the future of Russ's earning power. I think Russ can still be a good, maybe even very good NBA player. Probably good. I don't know about very good. Very good might be stretching it. Where he can still get it. Where he can I think he can still be a good, useful. How about useful? I think he can still be a useful NBA player. I think he can still play. I think the issue is the fit here. And so if he is traded to a place where all of the stars align and he's allowed to kind of run the show and do his thing, that could be useful for his future career. If not, and he's traded somewhere where he gets bought out or he has a minimized role, et cetera, I don't think that makes sense for him, because I think he's going to, you and I have talked about it a million times. If you go somewhere and people hate getting bought out, usually coming off a big contract, guys don't like getting bought out. Because
they become a minimum player. You
become a minimum player, and that reputation is incredibly tough to shake. So,
especially at this stage of his career, he's 30 something.
So I don't. I think he's 33. I think.
Yeah, I was going to say 33, 34.
So I don't know that Russ wants to get traded, and if he does, I mean, I think the chance for him to have his biggest role is here. Does that mean he will do what it takes to be effective in that role? I don't know about that, right? All indications are probably not, but I don't know. So I think the reason I think there has been this kind of standstill is because it's not in either team's best or either side's best interest to push, talk down on the other or force any action. The Lakers are going to do what they're going to do behind the scenes. You have to say, in the meantime, of course we think it can work. Here's how it can work. And Pat Bev loves Russ, and everybody, and LeBron says this dude's going to bounce back. All of that. Jeannie says he was, our most consistent, our most available player. All of that. Ham says, here's how it's going to work. And Russ, it doesn't say, oh, get me the fuck up out of here, because it doesn't benefit either side to do that.
Russ just fired you as his agent.
I'm not saying he shouldn't get traded. I'm saying it doesn't make sense for him to say, get me out of here.
Aaron, it doesn't. Financial sense, he would lose bird rights. This is why.
He wouldn't lose bird rights if he gets traded.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But he would lose bird rights if he gets traded and bought out, right? He seems to think
unless once he gets waived, if he got picked up by another team, then the contract
on the
transfer.
full contract, yeah.
But yes, then nobody would,
which is I think literally impossible.
Unless somebody is going to create
$47 million of cap space. Yeah.
Yes. But I have to throw that nerdy Eric Pincus, the CBA. I have the caveat in there. He could get waived and picked up, and bird rights continue. It could happen.
Yeah, it won't.
No, it will not.
But yeah, you're everything. What you just said is objectively true. At least in terms of what makes the most sense for Russell Westbrook. I don't think it makes the most sense for the Lakers, but I think it makes the most sense for Russell Westbrook to go back and try to figure this out and accept the role that helps the Lakers win and show that he is willing to do that, right? And because right now, the reason why teams aren't interested in Russell Westbrook isn't because necessarily the talent has slipped that precipitously. That's
either.
Not
both work. Both are work. You're the writer, but both work.
Yeah, but the reason he hasn't been moved or teams aren't interested in trading for him is the cap. Is the cap hit, right? And bringing on $47 million. But in terms of just raw talent, he is, I would say, he's a below average but still starting caliber point guard. I think at this stage of his career. but still starting caliber. Like he would if he came off the bench, he would be the best point guard coming off the bench in the league. If he accepted that kind of a role. And so like for him, if he was just interested in what gives him the most longevity at this earning power or something closest to this earning power, then the move is make it work with the Lakers, convince them to re-sign you this upcoming season because of how willing you were to accept a winning role on a winning team, and move forward with the rest of your career there. Not only is that the best move for him financially, but also like it seems personally. He's from LA. His family lives in LA. It was really difficult. One of the moment that I actually felt worst for him was when he was talking about the impact last season had on his kids, right? Where at
about
school,
them coming to the arena,
coming to the arena and then getting shit at school, like that was the toughest stuff for me to hear too. And like I totally understand why he as a father would be saying like, what the hell is wrong with you people? Leave my kids alone. And I completely agree. But like for him personally, professionally, financially, that all makes the most sense for him. However, if you're the Lakers, that's not a gamble you can make. That's not a gamble I would be comfortable making, is this guy realizing all of that. Because like really, what's the incentive for him to do so? He's already a Hall of Famer. He's already a top 75 player of all time. He's already made, what, $400 something million in just basketball earnings over the course of his career. Not to mention the stuff that he has made in endorsements off of the court with Jordan and any number of other things. He seems like he has all kinds of interests off of the court too. And I don't say that as a knock on him. I'm just saying that like he really does seem to understand work-life balance. And he great family. Like there is no real incentive for him to come to the conclusion or buy in and commit to what the Lakers or any team that is interested in winning would require him to do. So from my standpoint, if I was Rob Pelinka, if I was the brain trust of Jeannie and the Rambi and Tim Harris or whatever, and I was asked, hey, I need to make a decision here one way or the other, and I have to gamble on this guy getting it. I can't in good conscience make that come to that conclusion. There's just no reason for him to do so. And as that remains the case, he should have been moved at the beginning of the offseason. Let some other team make that gamble. And if he makes that, if he makes good on that gamble, then all respect to him and all respect to the team that brought him on.
So yes, but that your Laker fan is shining through, and your Lakers exceptionalism is shining through. Yes, and all right? I'll take the first part first. Do I suspect that he's going to do the things necessary? No, I don't.
No,
I do not. I think it is unlikely. No. You know what? I didn't think it was going to happen last year, and I was right.
Right.
And again, you know what? Never, I'll leave that alone. If you know, you know. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it was going to happen last year. I didn't like the move last year, and I made that known. I thought there were ways in which it could work, but I didn't suspect they were going to for the reasons it didn't. Do I think it could this year? Sure, it could, but I think it is even less likely this year than last year because we have one more year of evidence.
Yeah.
So let me be clear. I do not suspect Russ is going to change. I don't think there's any evidence that he will. So if you hope and wish and think he's going to, it's all hoping and wishing because there isn't any evidence. One piece of evidence, if you want to have purple and gold and rust-colored glasses on, is that, and I've said this months ago on our show, is that maybe last year and how it went last year and all of those unfortunate events that you chronicled, maybe that could be the way. Maybe. I don't suspect so, but maybe that could be the way.
But offseason, like his response this offseason has been, and again, this is the thing. I don't hold this against him in any way. If a city, essentially, especially my hometown city, which Yorba Linda might because I'm liberal, but like, if a city completely rejected me in the way that LA seemed to over the course of his tenure last year, I, especially given the impact it had on my family, I would be like, no, fuck you guys, I'm out.
I think that's most likely. However, it is possible that he could say, shit, like that didn't go so well. So let me like that could change things. I need to change things, especially because it's in LA. I lost some of LA. Do I expect it? No, but that is possible. But the other part of it, the reason why I say Lakers exceptionalism from you is that you are only looking at this from the Lakers perspective. Like the Lakers should have done this, and that doesn't provide any of the context of what is available, like or what was possible. It doesn't take into account that there are all of these other teams that are trying to make their best deals also. Mm-hmm. I mean, yes, I agree. It would have been best for the Lakers to trade Russ, but not under any circumstance. It's not when the deal that they're going to get back. And by the way, everything that you see reported is not there. People are the reporters, Woj, Shams, Haynes, Stein, even Ramona, all the beat guys, Woike, Jova, everybody around here. Yes. RD Ambition.
Scoop B.
Whoever that, what is it? The new one, Utah, something now.
Yeah.
The legitimate ones definitely often have, good sourcing and are talking to people. But they often present conversations and discussions as action items when they aren't necessarily the case. And so it doesn't mean that just because you hear about a discussion, two teams talking, I can't speak on any of the specifics, but two teams talking, generally they're right about them talking and maybe light frameworks of stuff. But that doesn't mean, yes, like Team A, well, the Lakers in this case. It doesn't mean the Lakers have like this menu laid out like, okay, do you want this team option? Push button A. Do you want this option? Press B. Do you want this option? Press C. So I would caution Lakers fans that it doesn't mean that and if nothing happens, it doesn't mean that the Lakers had a million satisfactory options and just chose not to, is my point.
Yeah, like essentially the tenor of these conversations is like if you included those 2 first-round picks in Russ, this is what we could maybe make available. Here's what the price, if we made so-and-so available, here's what the price could be. But it's never like, if you include these 2, this is what you get.
Feels like to Lakers fans, because, and I understand it, that is the Lakers fan perspective, and there is Lakers exceptionalism, but it feels like, and I'm talking to you too, Anthony Irwin. No, I'm pointing at you. I'm not pointing behind you. It feels like the Lakers fucked this up because they turned down X or Y or Z, and that is rarely the case, and is definitely not always the case.
Well, here's where I would tweak that slightly.
Okay.
Right? I don't think the Lakers have come out, like, I don't think the Lakers have gotten such an offer that is actionable that they would legitimately, like, just shun away, right? I don't think that has happened to this point. But I do think their borderline dogmatic reluctance to just not include that second first rounder limits the kind of conversations that they could have had and limits the productivity of those conversations that they could have had over the course of the offseason. Again, this has always seemed very simple to me. Not easy, like to the point you made a second ago. Not easy, but this has always seemed very simple to me. It's going to cost 1 first rounder to move Russell Westbrook's 1 year of $47 million on his contract. It's going to cost another first rounder to bring in any tangible help as a result of moving Russell Westbrook in that $47 million expiring contract.
But like that's right. No, I have no problem with that premise. None. Zero.
Right.
I have zero problem.
But if the Lakers refuse to, but if they refuse to, like, it has seemed to me, based on reporting that others have done and based on conversations that I have had, it has seemed to me Like the Lakers have refused to come to grips with that reality. That Rob Pelinka and the Lakers have refused to think of Russell Westbrook as a contract that they have to dump rather than an asset that they should get something back for.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
I think that because this is true of you and me, this is true of every Laker fan, this is true of people within the Lakers organization. We all have a different threshold for what is enough. I don't disagree with your premise.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take something to get off of Russ, and it's going to take something to get something of value back. But how much value coming back is worth
is
it.
Enough. Mm-hmm.
Is enough. And you and I have discussions about this all the time, right? But if all the people in the chat now gave their line for what, is worth it, there's going to be many different opinions there, and they may all be different than yours and mine, and maybe different than Rob's, and maybe different Jeannie's and whoever, right? Like maybe different Joey and Jesse. Like all of us have a different threshold for what is enough. And what you said, what you and Dan talked about, I think Dan mentioned it. Like I understand the reluctance to give up the 2 first-round picks, because what happens if you get guys that theoretically can help, guys that can play, guys that can help, kind of some role players. There's different constructions alleged out there. And what if it's either A, not good enough talent-wise, or B, you're making a bet on the health of LeBron and AD. And as you and I have talked about, if LeBron and AD aren't healthy, none of this shit matters anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But if they are not healthy and none of the shit matters anyway, and you have sacrificed stuff in the future, you're really fucked.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it comes down to, I don't think the Lakers are being dogmatic in their unwillingness to trade 1 pick or trade 2 picks. I think it is the threshold for what it's going to take to attract the Lakers into that is a little different than you think, or right, not than you think, than your line that you would prefer.
So yes, obviously, or else a move would have been made already.
maybe no, because all of this assumes that something was available. So maybe is the answer to that.
Well, but like if nothing was available, then the Lakers wouldn't have been having conversations over the course of the offseason. If like no team was willing to
you have conversations to find out what's available.
Sure, but like something has to be available. then all right, Bojan Bogdanović, not on the table. Miles Turner's going to leave in a year for nothing. He's not available. Like that come on. But like also the other thing, and Alexis, I'm going to really quickly touch on this really quick. Alexis asks, again, Anthony, would those players we signed would have been there if we waited to trade Russ, and how would the KD trade delay affected things, and how did that affect things? I don't think the Lakers signed anybody that like anybody was in some incredible rush to sign. Like even Lonnie Walker, who I think is the highest pedigreed player that the Lakers signed, I wouldn't have considered it a lost offseason if they didn't sign him, if they lost out on Lonnie Walker by waiting to make the Russell Westbrook trade.
No, and most of the Lakers signings came later in free agency anyway. Yeah.
Plus, you had like some clutch connection guys. Yeah, Lonnie Walker being one of them. Like I don't think we actually saw this when the Lakers were waiting to make the Kawhi signing, right? Where it seemed like, and I'm only alleging this because this would get the Lakers in trouble, but it seemed like the Lakers essentially told guys like Danny Green or other signings that they made right after Kawhi made his decision, hey, if you wait for this, we will give you a bump in what we would normally sign you to anyway. And lo and behold, Kawhi signed somewhere else. The Lakers signed Danny Green to a contract that he probably wasn't necessarily worth at the time, but he was worth it because he waited for the Lakers to find out one way or the other on Kawhi. I think the Lakers, while they couldn't have offered more to the guys that they would have signed on the minimum, because they were restricted to signing those guys on the minimum, if the Lakers would have said, hey, we're interested in you, we just have to make this other move first. If you get another minimum offer, best of luck, man, but you're a minimum player. You are literally inherently fungible. You are replaceable in every sense of the word.
I mean, yes.
That's how I would answer that.
Yes, no, I don't think that anybody was missed out on by waiting on anything, or would have been missed out on by waiting. And to answer the question, I'm going to be careful here, but to answer the second part of Alexis's question, I think always that whatever the Nets were wanting to do with Kyrie was always tied to Kevin Durant. And so, yeah, there's the answer to that.
Here's how because I can be a little bit more reckless. So yes, the Nets weren't going to trade Kyrie so long as Kyrie was seen as an asset who might be able to convince Kevin Durant to come back. The intel I would have been interested in if I was the Lakers was, are you at all interested in actually interested? Are you having any of these negotiations to move Kevin Durant in good faith? I think there's real question to whether they were, because if you look at the offers that they were looking for Kevin Durant, yeah, in a vacuum, Kevin should have gone for Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, 73 first-round picks, and you move forward that way, right? But this isn't done in a vacuum. Teams were taking into account that Kevin Durant is flaky and he changes his mind, and he was going to go for below market value. And like, if I was the Lakers, the type of intel that I would have been really looking for was, should we actually be waiting for them to make a Kevin Durant decision, and then move off of Kyrie sooner than they were willing to over the course of because what it seems to me right now is that, again, based on the way that the Nets were holding these negotiations, is they weren't going to trade Kevin unless they got an offer that was never coming.
Okay. So yes, you are right. And no, I don't think the Nets were operating in good faith. And the reason I think we have plenty of evidence of that. And you know why? Because he 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, said, "Get me the fuck up out of here." And the Nets said, no. No.
Right.
No.
Well, it was also funny that he framed it, and it was framed as an ultimate, like it was a Kevin Durant demands out of Brooklyn. It's like, no, he didn't.
No.
He made an ultimatum. Those are two very different things. He told them if he actually wanted out, he would have said, it doesn't matter what you do. You can fire Steve Nash. You can fire Sean Marks. I'm still not coming back. I'm still not reporting. I'm out of here regardless. Like the time when we got the report that he was like, the only way I will come back is if Steve Nash and Sean Marks are fired. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So Kevin isn't getting moved. Like Josiah isn't getting. Josiah
getting bullied into nothing.
Yeah, like he has all of China back. We think Kevin Durant is going to bully Josiah.
So the other part of it, though, and the part that I disagree with you a little bit is in saying that the Lakers maybe should have gotten that intel about what was actually going to happen. The Lakers had good intel on this. Rob and I talked about this at Summer League, and he said, "I don't think KD is going to get moved." And I also think that, or I don't. To go back to like the earlier stuff about what was missed out on.
What's funny is
if the Lakers,
just really quickly. While Rob and you were having that conversation, that was right around the time that it was floated out there that Kevin might have made his trade demand to get Brooklyn to move Kyrie. So I find the timing of that funny. Like both of those things came out at around the same time.
So, and as it relates to possible conversations, that the reported conversations that the Lakers and Nets were having, about Kyrie, do you think that the Lakers missed out on any opportunity if they pursuing that for however long the Lakers had those conversations and pursued it? Do you think they missed out on anything?
Yeah, I do.
Like other trades?
So,
because if not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, to quote Darius, yes and no. Right?
I love it.
Yes, because if your focus is still, which it was, right? The Lakers' top priority this year was to try to trade for Kyrie Irving, not necessarily because they were like sold on the prospect of employing Kyrie Irving for the foreseeable future. There are several people in the Lakers organization who aren't necessarily thrilled at that idea, but more so because if they would have traded Russ a bad contract and 2 first-rounders and gotten back Kyrie Irving, that would have been trading a quarter for $5, right? Like in terms of potential value, you are sending out a quarter and you are getting back Tesla stock at its peak. And so like I if that is your focus, if your focus is over here, that means you aren't as focused on conversations that you could be having with Indiana, with Utah, that would maybe allow you to be more productive earlier in the offseason so that you would have a more fluid and logical offseason from that point forward. Like we started this conversation with the criticism from me of, hey, you can't design a roster with a move in mind, because if you don't make that move, that roster makes zero sense. And that's the situation the Lakers find themselves in. So yes, in the sense that maybe by focusing on Kyrie Irving, you can't make that trade anyway. But no, in the sense of like you just finished talking about a second ago, we don't know what was available to the Lakers from those other teams.
So I think the focus question is a fair one. I also would say that deal was probably worth focusing on.
Yeah.
And I would also say that let's not underestimate the bandwidth that people have, because all 30 teams are having conversations with all 29 other teams at all times. So it's not like if a team A is focused over here with team B, that team C and D and E and F and throughout the rest of the alphabet are not having conversations. Everybody's talking, canvassing the league at all times. I would guess, maybe not GM to GM specifically, but front office to front office, somebody in one front office to somebody in another front office. Often it is the GM or assistant GM, but they are talking multiple times a week throughout the entire season. Or
they don't have anything else to do.
They're talking to each other all the time.
It's their job. Yeah.
They're talking to each other all the time. No, they have plenty of other stuff to do, but they are talking to each other all the time. I mean, you got to figure out how many guys you're sending to go watch Victor Wembanyama and Scoot play in October, because that is going to be the most scouted game in, I don't know, 2 games in I don't know how long. 7'4" barefoot. Actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about him because he's not draft eligible yet. But they're talking teams. Every team is talking to every other team all the time, and conversations. Hey, like, is so and so available, or what do you think about? Would you be interested in so and so? Or somebody will say, hey, we kind of like so and so on your squad. What kind of thing do you think that would take to kind of make something happen there? So I don't think focusing on something at the beginning of the offseason affected any of the other negotiations. But yeah, I mean, I understand the perspective. I don't think it's unreasonable. It's just not entirely how the NBA works.
So basically, the Lakers' approach to this offseason was
chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder.
Unfortunately, it seems like this offseason is ending much like his
going back to back
part in Golden Thrones, in Game of Thrones. Like it didn't go very well.
Are you into what is it, House of the Dragon? Are you into?
All right, do you want to? All right, quick aside. We're 49 minutes in, but all right. So, quick aside on House of Dragons. It seems to me the people who are making this have once again kind of forgotten what made Game of Thrones as special as it was, or as special as it eventually became. Because Game of Thrones, like, we came to love Tyrion Lannister because we spent so much time with him on the road. We came to love Jon Snow because we were there walking north of the wall with him for like 2 seasons. And we came to love his relationship with Ygritte because we watched that relationship grow. And House of Dragons, while it looks spectacular and there are parts of it I really, really like, they like this time jump thing where you jump
it was
6
2-3
months
years.
in the
It was
first
like
one.
2-3 years from episode 2 to 3 was 2-3 years, right?
Right. It's just like that. That's all time that we could come to understand more of why Damon is operating the way that he is. And like, you guys are going to be shocked to find this out, but I don't like the process behind Game of Thrones. I'm a slave to process, and I think they're skipping really important parts of the process here.
So I'm surprised to hear you say that, but I agree with you 1,000%, but kind of in a different way. But I agree with you. I'm already confused. It feels like Westworld to me. Like I'm already confused.
Right.
And I think that, I mean, part of the thing that we loved about, or at least that I loved about Game of Thrones was the breadth of it. But at the beginning, they gave us a few people to focus on, to really care about and get to know. And then they expanded and expanded and expanded. You know, where at the end of it, there was 1,000 characters that we knew. I don't even know everybody's name yet. And we're only 3 episodes in. I feel like, I mean, maybe I'm just old and dumb and have too much unnamed cognac while I'm watching. Because I really enjoy it. I'm not going to lie. I've been really into it. I've been really into it. But I'm like, every time I watch it, I feel like, how much shit am I missing? Because I don't know who this is, and I should, because there's too many characters.
Yeah, I just, and again,
I think we needed to start a little slower.
You would learn about those characters while they're traveling, you know, from one spot to another. It's just like Game of Thrones at its beginning and at its best, right? Like the reason we got the payoff, like that Ramsay's death was such a payoff, was because we spent like episodes, plural, almost a season, learning why we should hate this guy. When Ramsay shows up,
do you have to give the spoiler alert from 6 years ago?
Nah, I think we're good.
Okay.
But like when Sansa's getting handed off is getting wed to Ramsay, we're all like, oh, this is terrible. This is not going to end well for Sansa. This is she, you know, and we knew that because we spent all that time watching Ramsay just be like the worst version of any person we've ever known, you know, and it's just, I think House of Dragons is it looks cool. The concept I think is and look, maybe we'll find out in more time in the series that like the fat that they have trimmed was actually worth trimming, that the fat that they like them jumping time actually made sense because there's something more important happening. Like eventually Viserys is going to die, right? Not even spoiler. We know this. His fingers are falling off.
They are.
Usually, like for me, if I see a character cough on camera, that's when I'm like, oh, that person's going to die.
It's a wrap.
Yeah, that person is gonna die because it's an editing thing. You don't leave coughs in. You know, I have a mute button. If I don't, right, like if I have to cough, I can hit the mute button and remove a cough from the proceedings. If you leave a cough in, it's usually because
there's a reason
they want you to know that person's gonna. And this guy's losing half his hand.
Yeah, and by the way, has some strange ailment that.
Yeah,
it seems like sitting on the Iron Throne like stabs your body,
right?
And then he needs leeches and maggots and such.
Yeah. Anyway, but like I maybe we'll find out once Viserys dies and we meet like old Rhaenyra. Like basically, they're laying the groundwork for why you should kind of sort of care about some of these characters, and then when we get to the real conflict, they'll slow down. That's what I'm hoping. Is that they'll eventually slow down when we get to the real conflict right now, and they've basically spelled out some of the conflict in that, and they'll dive into the weeds of it when it actually hits us.
Have you come around on Legacy yet?
I can't. This is a me problem. This is at like I couldn't watch beyond the second episode, and it's not even necessarily because of Legacy in particular. Mm-hmm. It's because I am hardwired to distrust anything the subject of the documentary has final say on the direction of the documentary. So like Last Dance, I didn't like Last Dance too much. The Jeter documentary was a farce. Like it was
I didn't see none of that.
It was bad. I could tell it was a farce just from the trailers. It was bad. And then I got through 2 episodes of Legacy, and it's clear the protagonist here is Dr. Buss. And everything that is said and done is to paint Dr. Buss as like this messianic character. And I think it's more interesting. This is a brand problem widespread too. I think stories are more interesting if we learn about adversity, and we learn about like the bumps in the road that created the calluses that allowed somebody to become the genius that Dr. Buss was. And I don't think we've learned enough about like what made Dr. Buss tick.
Well, you got to keep watching because there's been more of that recently.
Yeah.
About his childhood.
Yeah.
About how many times the Lakers were on the edge, and Dr. Buss, by extension, were on the edge of financial ruin.
Yeah.
And so some of the difficulties and the decisions that he made, and the boldness and getting to it. But you're right. Conceptually, you're right. I think they do a good job in this case of kind of towing that line of you're right though, right? Like they're not a reliable narrator. You're right. Yeah. Inherently, you are correct. But
like I said, this is a me problem. They could have they can execute it better than other documentaries can have, but it still would be a me problem that I would just be cynical about everything that's being said.
It's understandable. I would encourage you to give it another shot. The other part that's interesting for me, a lot of it is information I just didn't know because I did not grow up in the fabric of LA and the Lakers. But there's a lot of like archival footage and even audio that isn't around, or at least I've never seen or heard before. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Now we're talking TV. I like this.
I'm about to have nothing but time on my hands. So I would imagine I'm probably going to dive into this stuff, especially like I'm supposed to be at the hospital for 3 straight days or 2 straight days, like 2 nights, 3 days. So yeah, my phone is loaded up with a bunch of stuff that I'm going to be watching.
Okay. So now before we get out of here, give me your starting lineup. I'm pinning you to it as it stands now.
Of House of Dragons, like who I would,
yeah, yeah, sure, yes. Who are your 5 dragon riders?
All right.
There's like YouTube. I watch YouTube to go to sleep, and so a lot of it is Star Wars. I watch Bob Ross, the painting. I watch woodworking. I watch some cooking stuff. But I've been watching breakdowns of the House of Dragons episodes. You know, all the like spoilers and Easter eggs and visual references you missed. And there'd be like 73 of them. And there's 20, it's a 25-minute video. I'm like, did I even watch the show? I don't know any of this shit. Yeah. I don't know that I even watched it.
I've been listening to Networks. He has 2 podcasts where he talks about the show, right? He has the official one that he hosts with Greta something, and then he has his show that he does with Rosie. And he's incredibly informed and stuff like that. So that's how I kind of learn about the minutia of the show. But beyond that, I feel bad for like Jen, right? She's watching it and I constantly like, all right, so who's that again? And wait, wasn't he just over there? How did he, Damon?
Did you read the books?
The Game of Thrones books. I didn't read like the Excel spreadsheet on
because I'm like, this is so and so's. I'm like, I need a family tree posted. Something's going. I don't know who this is or who this is going to be, or this is Aegon, the 94th of his name, who will be this. And I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah. All right. So my starting five. Patrick Beverley.
Mm-hmm. Is this what you think or what your choice would be? What you think it will be, or what you?
What I think it will be is very different.
All right, so this is your choice.
My choice.
Yes.
Patrick Beverley, LeBron, Anthony Davis. We good so far?
I mean, yes.
Malik Beasley and Bojan Bogdanovic.
Oh God. I have to make this just for people that listen back to this. I have to make it incredibly obvious as an audio medium that I am drinking. So here, hold on.
I kind of want to just frame this comment from
What
James
does it say?
Santiago. This live is amazing. Now we know when Anthony speaks of stuff Aaron can't talk about, Aaron takes a sip of the cognac.
We've been telling on ourselves for months, but yes.
Yeah,
I used to give a specific brand, and now because they still haven't sponsored us, yes, it is unnamed cognac is delicious. Now you can see it me drinking, but when I say unnamed cognac is delicious, that's what it means.
Yeah.
It means me
So-
avoiding very clumsily avoiding the topic.
I can't even do like a starting five. The roster doesn't make enough sense for me to do a starting five.
Okay, but the roster is what it is right now. So what is the starting five?
Shit. Like, it's not good is what it is. It's just like
You
it's
still
like
gotta
Russ-
put five. You gotta put five guys.
So
out
it's Patrick
there.
Beverly,
And those
Russell
hamburgers are
Westbrook.
delicious.
There's your starting backcourt. Once again, competing for worst backcourt in the league.
Stop it.
So there's Patrick Beverly, Russell Westbrook, LeBron, AD, and Thomas Bryant. That's the one I think is going to be.
I think that's what it is going to be, and I think that is what it should be.
Yeah, I mean, like I personally, I think eventually, I don't know how long Russ will be in that shooting guard spot. Like, I prefer shooting guards who can shoot.
I don't
personally.
I think offensively, it's flipped. I think defensively, yes. I think defensively, Pat Bev is guarding the lead initiator for the other team, and Russ is guarding the two.
Yeah.
But offensively, I think it's flipped.
Can I also say something really quick too?
Is the quote unquote shooting guard? Yes.
People who are hoping for Austin Reeves to start. No, it's not going to happen. I forgot for a second that this is eventually going to be a podcast. I was just shaking my head side to side. It's not going to happen. It was. I'm sorry, but on a team that features a Hall of Famer in Russell Westbrook, an undrafted sophomore is probably not going to be playing starting shooting guard minutes.
Well, look, Coach Ham has everybody's going to get a chance. I think. I just think the first
every coach
chance, says
that.
I think the first chance is going to go to. I think the first three guys you mentioned, LeBron, AD, and Pat Bev, are in pen or ink or blood
Sharpie.
or whatever. Yes.
Yeah.
As far as the other two, I think Russ and Thomas Bryant are going to get the first two chances to start, and I think they should.
Yeah.
I don't know how long the leash with Russ is going to be, but I think he is going to, and I think he should get, because unfortunately the Lakers, I don't think, are talented enough to just like put that talent to the side and say, man, like there's no other obvious option.
So a more interesting question here becomes, what is their closing lineup? Like, that's the interesting one. Is AD at the 5? Is Russ out there? At some point they're going to have to try to win these games, right? And the politics kind of fall by the wayside as you're trying to win these games. So, will Damian Jones be out there if they prefer defense? Like,
my suspicion as of game one, my suspicion is, Russ, Pat Bev, LeBron, AD, and either Lonnie Walker, Austin Reeves, or Kendrick
That's
Nunn.
so small.
But teams play smaller to finish games, and it's small, but it's not like painfully small. It's small, but it's not like
Isaiah Thomas isn't out there, but it's still small.
No. Like if the game one, the Warriors, who are the Warriors going to have out there to finish? Steph, Poole, Clay, Wiggins, and Draymond. So like it's bigger than that, and they just won a title.
Yeah,
if they were going to go big, they'd play Kevon Looney, who's 6'9". So it is not small.
the problem with comparing that is that like the Lakers don't have anybody who shoots as well as the third best shooter in that lineup. Like, I'm not even talking about Steph. I'm not even talking about Clay. We're talking about Jordan Poole, and the Lakers don't have, and like, if you go small, the purpose is to spread teams out and attack them with paper cuts. But like the Lakers, there's no reason if you're a defense to get stretched out. Anthony Davis is a below average shooter. Russell Westbrook is a below average shooter. Lonnie Walker is a below average shooter. Kendrick Nunn might be a above average shooter, but we don't know if he has a working left knee. So like, again, it's like
How
I
much
said
longer
from
are
the
we
beginning.
talking? Do I need to go back? Do I need to? I'm not. You keep this going. I need to head back to the store and get another one.
Yeah, look again. This is why I started the conversation that I did, and I'm glad that you're wrapping up the conversation where you are. Is because the roster, as it's currently constructed, was clearly put together in a way that assumed a Russell Westbrook trade was coming, and unfortunately, a Russell trade not only hasn't come, but seems less likely the longer that you and I sit here and talk. It's Friday, man. This is usually peak Friday news dump hours. In the next like 3-4 hours, normally this is where the Lakers would announce, hey, that giant mistake that we made last year, yeah, he's now in Utah. This is normally how that would go down, but we're still waiting for it. And look, LeBron can't keep pushing back his mini camp as he waits for a Russell Westbrook trade. They can't push back media day as they wait for a Russell Westbrook trade. So eventually they're going to have to, we're going to get some leak that the Lakers have ended all conversations and they are committed to the roster that they have. But even when they do that, and even given how nice it'll probably be for everybody involved who are currently on the roster to just know, like, all right, this is our group. This is who we're rolling with. Even as nice as that might be, that exhaling is pretty short-lived, because then you start looking at the roster and you're like, oh dear God, this is a 9 seed with LeBron and AD on it.
So I disagree with you. If LeBron and AD play as much as we all hope they play and want them to play, then I disagree with you. I disagree with that too. However, your premise is not a flawed one about the offseason. I just like that forcing you into a bad move, I think, is not the right move. And I still think there's a decent chance that this roster will look different when the season starts.
Yeah, I would probably put it at a coin flip now, or a slightly weighted coin flip if you want. Where which way is weighted?
You're doing the
Russ has moved.
You're doing the what was the Batman, the Two-Face? What was that?
Yeah.
Heads I win, tails you lose.
Right. I think I still, again, and it might be confirmation bias on my part or wishful thinking on my part to think that I hope that the Lakers eventually make a move for everything that you and I have talked about. And I also think, I wrote this on Silver Screen yesterday, right? That as much as the Lakers have tried to put their best foot forward here, reality is still staring them in the face. Like, it was funny to have a literal big elephant in the room in Russell Westbrook while you're introducing his potential replacement. Like, I get why Russ would want to be there, and I get why the Lakers would want Russ to be there, because you want to make it look like, all right, this is what we're rolling with. He's supportive of his new teammate. They're letting bygones be bygones. But it's also like the fact that Russ needed to be there is acknowledgement of aforementioned bygones. Like those things just don't go away. And it's not even necessarily because there have been productive teammates who haven't liked each other in the past. Harrison and myself are a pretty decent example. But
wait, which one of you is Pat Bevan? Which one of you is?
Oh, I'm for sure Russ. Just a volume shooter who is not very efficient.
And Harrison may or may not have intentionally injured you.
Look, he can be mean.
I think you just called Harrison less talented than you also.
No.
And I think I think you've decreed that you've had a better career than Harrison.
That's probably not true. Well, no, it's probably not true. We'll see. More time left.
I don't know. We have to
see, now you're actually going to start a fight between me and Harrison.
Right. And that's why we need to keep the analogy going. I'm like, who in this is stirring up the pot?
Maybe it's just two Russell Westbrooks.
Bayless?
Yeah. No, I think it's more likely than not that Russ is not on the team by the time training camp rolls around. But whereas I thought it was at like 95-5 for most of the offseason, it's now at like 65-55 or 70-30 or no. Yeah, 70-30 or 65-35.
That is how numbers work.
I said 55. It was like 110, but
that was a struggle for you. Yeah,
120. I'm not good at math, but yeah, without getting yourself into trouble and sending people off here, if you had to predict who the Lakers, how do I want to do this? If you had to predict if Russ starts the season on the Lakers, does he make it to the trade deadline? Or beyond the trade deadline, I guess.
So part of it is what it looks like with him and the health of the guys that matter.
But like you and I have a pretty good feel for how things usually are going to go.
I think the roster is going to look different. I still think the roster is going to look different by the start of the season, and I definitely think it would look different by training camp. By the trade deadline.
Okay.
I think it is. Yeah, there you go.
There you go, everybody. All right, that's going to do it for this live. You guys can't see this, but he's like wringing his. I didn't know you could wring glass out. That's really impressive. That is going to do it for this live edition of The Hook. The plan on these is to do, or in general, is to start doing more live content. So whether that is live episodes of The Hook, of mine and Harrison's show, you name it. We have spaces, and we have some fun. We have some fun content planned for you guys for spaces. As of a conversation I had,
I like
yesterday.
it. Yes.
So we have some really cool stuff here as I head out on paternity leave. This is the last show of my pre-paternity leave stretch here. The next time you guys hear me on
paternity leave stretch, okay?
Yeah. So next time you guys hear Aaron and I on a hook together, like I have bags now. My bags are just going to bags on bags on bags on bags because I will probably be holding a baby on one of my shows
during the show.
Maybe. Yeah, we'll see.
I like it.
Look, if I want Miles to earn his nepotism.
Okay.
So until I talk to you guys next, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Aaron Larsoul, and this was The Hook.
Go Bears.